All right, season 2 of Data Trends with Martiza. I'm Craig Stewart, founder of Dalebrook Media, and joining me from RCS, good friend and trend watcher, if you will, of the data world, Martiza Curry. Martiza, how's it going? Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. And you're from a very cloudy Cape Town this morning, not as sunny as in Johannesburg. But yeah, but I'm really excited about season 2. We're seeing some interesting things in the industry, trend-wise.
For sure, yeah. I'm interested, yeah, obviously very keen to kind of go through what you've done and also just get people to sort of understand how you come up with these, well, not come up with the trends, how you discover the trends, the research that you do. It's not just sort of I feel like it's this. There's a lot of research that goes into it. Yeah, I'm excited as well. I think that maybe I've got a little bit caught up in the hype cycle of AI and generative AI, but I think, it's just kind of impacting so many areas at the moment, sort of, maybe pushing some things forward. And we're looking at doing some stuff in ITSM. It's obviously prevalent now in the HR space, all that sort of thing. So from our point of view, from a community point of view, and events and a conversation point of view, is definitely pretty much top of mind for everyone. But the good thing is there's a lot of key fundamentals that are top of mind
Yeah.
to make sure that AI is actually done really well and successfully, which I'm sure that we'll go into. In a bit. So why don't you share, Martiza, with everybody just how you go about identifying these trends year on year, and then maybe also talk us through what are you seeing that's still a trend from the last season that we did last year, and kind of what's new on the radar as well.
Okay. So every year, sort of towards the end of the year, December, January, I do research on trends and I read everything that I can find, whether it's a white paper by a, well-known research company or whether it is a data leaders blog. I read everything. And then I kind of distill that into the trends. Basically, I look at what's most people talking about. And this year I read 83 resources.
Nice.
And there's some interesting things that's come out. Some things not surprising. You can kind of year on year see where things are going. And then, of course, if there are major events like the AI legislation in the it was European Union last year, then that's something people will be talking about, and that's going to be a trend. But this year there were some surprises. Things that I couldn't believe it when I saw the results. But I think there are reasons for it, and we can talk a little bit about that as well. But in terms of the top 3, I don't think it's a surprise. Augmented analytics, number 1 this year. Yeah. And I think that's linked to, there is a mega trend around augmentation in the industry. There's a lot of trends linked to augmentation. Yeah. So no surprise there. It was number 2 last year, number 1 this year.
Okay.
Last year's number 1, which was data protection, data security, data privacy, is number 2 this year. So it's still top 3. Again, not surprising. And then number 3 is not surprising at all. And this was actually one of the biggest movers. So it moved up 7 places, and that's generative AI. And at the moment, it's kind of, everyone's talking about it in a very generic way. So you're not seeing it splitting into sub-trends yet. So this year, we only see like 2 sub-trends. The one is increased investment in generative AI. And then the other one is increased focus on the risk mitigation around Gen AI. But I think what's going to happen in the future, just like with AI, is it is going to start splitting into different trends. And then Gen AI will become the mega trend with some sub-trends.
Yeah.
And then this one, I think this has been a long time coming. Also moved up 7 places for this year in the number 4 spot is edge computing. Okay. So, or fog computing, it's also known as. So edge computing, edge analytic, edge AI. And what this is driven by is another mega trend in the industry, which is real time.
Yeah.
So companies really want to get into real time analytics and make decisions faster. Everything is faster or has to be faster. So edge computing, edge analytics has become quite a big trend. And then in number 5, and this is no surprise because of the increased focus on legislation, is AI governance, AI ethics, AI trust. So everything around explainable AI. So that obviously driven by the focus on legislation. So that's the top 5. In terms of sort of the biggest movers, let's start with the positive ones. Also moving up 7 places in their rankings is data discovery.
Okay.
Data visualization, data storytelling. Again, I think not much of a surprise, Craig, because, self-service BI, it's been around for a long time, but I think now the penny's starting to drop that, you need to have a focus on how you present that information to really guide your BI users. So not really a surprise. And then adaptive AI. So again, driven by real time. So these are AI models that learn in real time from the data it is processing. It's also called continuous intelligence. So real time, really big mega trend. Then the interesting ones, the ones that have dropped quite a few spots. Now, the first one I think we could see coming. So up to last year, when people talked about new architecture approaches or data architecture approaches, they kind of put data mesh and data fabric in the same conversation.
Yeah.
So it was kind of the same trend. What we saw this year is that people are starting to split them into 2 different trends. So data mesh, data fabric, 2 different trends.
Yeah.
Data fabric still under the top 10. So it did drop a few spots, but it's still, top 10. Data mesh, however, has dropped quite a bit. It's dropped out of the top 10. It dropped by 9 spots. And I think it's because probably data mesh or data fabric is more achievable. And there are sort of practical examples in the industry of people who are working towards a data fabric, who have implemented a data fabric successfully. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest surprise, and I actually thought this would end up top 3 this year. In fact, I thought this was going to be number 1. It just shows you how wrong I can be. Dropped out of the top 10, dropped by 12 spots. This is the biggest shifter this year.
Yeah.
Data sharing. Who would have seen that coming?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I've talked to a few people on, why do they think this has dropped so drastically? And there are different opinions, but this is kind of the summary of what people think. So the first kind of view is, okay, but maybe reality is set in. So it was this massive hype last year, and maybe organizations didn't get the ROI or the value that they expected. Maybe they discovered it's a little bit more difficult, to do this, whether they were building their own platform or using someone else's platform, and there's a cost to it. The other view is that because of this focus on data and digital legislation, and we're seeing more coming our way, maybe companies are just saying, okay, hang on a seckie, let's just suss this out. Let's make sure everything is safe and that we're doing the right thing in the right way. So maybe, next year it gets some momentum again. But the most interesting opinion, I think, and by the way, I think it's a combination of all these things, but the most interesting one is that, there's 2 interesting ones. The one is that maybe organizations realized there's a lot of value in the data they already have, and there's only a percentage of the data that they actually, in their own organizations, that they use for analytics. And maybe this is also because there is a mega trend around cost efficiency to say, hang on a second, let's just see what we can do with what we already have. And then the other one is, well, maybe we're talking about so many other things like Gen AI and AI legislation that we're not talking about data sharing doesn't mean it's not important, doesn't mean it's not happening, doesn't mean companies are not focusing on it. We're just talking about other stuff. Yeah. So those are the really interesting insights from this year's trends. Some surprises and some non-surprises.
Yeah. Actually, kind of answered my question there. I was wondering if some of these things have moved down because other things have moved up, not necessarily because they're fading away. But just because, the kind of zeitgeist at the moment is everything is AI, Gen AI, LLMs, all these things. And I think even the trends that the top 5 that you put there are all kind of underlying around AI, right? Like obviously the augmented analytics, even the real-time data privacy, the governance, all that sort of thing. So I think it's more just that things have kind of been squeezed down rather than they're affecting in terms of their importance or popularity or the value that they can add to organizations.
Yeah, and I think we might see these move up again. Next year. Because it looks like things are a little bit volatile at the moment when it comes to trends.
Yeah, and I think maybe also people are just quite, as you kind of mentioned, they're kind of focused on their own data, their own sort of, I guess, deployment and implementation of AI or analytics, or maybe just getting the data governance and data quality right. It's like, great, we can share data, we can bring in data, but we actually need to look after our own data. And there's enough there, right? Like if we talk about dark data and all these sorts of things, there's so much more. And you talk about data discovery as well. They're just kind of coming across so much more data.
100%. So we're seeing that dark data is a trend this year. Unstructured data analytics is another trend. And we have a lot of unstructured data in our organizations, which we haven't explored. And then the other one was, I had a thought. Sorry, that thought's now out of my mind. I can't remember. But there were definitely 3 trends that's linked to small data.
Yeah,
that's right. So what we are seeing is that organizations, not everyone can afford the infrastructure and the capabilities that you need to build and process LLMs. So what we are seeing, and this is another trend, is that people are starting to look at very focused Gen AI use cases, for example, in a specific area like legal. So the tiny ML small data trend is something that's kind of coming up in the rankings. And I think we're actually going to see that growing. We're probably going to see that moving up a few spots next year.
Okay, good stuff. All right, so I think just from my side, I did a little bit of a survey based on some of the trends and the ideas on LinkedIn. Always a good place to go, I guess. Kind of get the community kind of sharing their details and everything. And so I said, what is the biggest trend in 2024 based on some of the things that we've talked about? AI literacy and maturity, sort of really overwhelming. Sort of winner or favorite sort of trend at the moment. Maybe that's a very sort of, it's a big term, right? Like there's so much that needs to go into literacy and maturity and all these sorts of things, which is probably why it got the majority of the votes, because it's not just a small thing that's super hot. It's more just that's a big thing that we need to tackle. But I have found through conversations, there's a lot of movement at the moment from data literacy to AI literacy. And I wonder maybe on your thoughts. I mean, we've been speaking about data literacy for 8-9 years now. Sort of since we started the community, and now it's kind of, I think the data maturity in organizations has really shifted a long way. Do you think that this sort of focus on AI literacy is that sort of first little steps towards getting really strong maturity and understanding and comfort levels with AI in organizations?
I'm wondering if, in terms of maturity, data literacy is at the point where it's kind of just mainstream. I don't feel it is, because it's hard to design and implement a data literacy program, because you're talking about quite a big change, quite a big shift, and not all organizations, it sounds like a great idea, but not everyone wants to invest in that. So there is definitely a shift towards AI literacy. I kind of feel companies are putting data literacy on the back burner because there's this imminent thing happening in their organizations, that's people using Gen AI. And all of a sudden, and not just Gen AI, it's also, using AI for automation, augmented analytics, all of the other trends. Augmented analytics, even if you don't have a focused augmented analytics strategy, you probably already have augmented analytics in your organization, in your BI tools, your security tools, etc. So I think there's this imminent thing happening in organizations, and organizations have to focus now on making sure that people know what the risks are around Gen AI, how to use it, making sure they understand in some cases your data is actually out there in a public cloud. What does that mean, etc. So I don't think data literacy is completely mainstream. I don't think it's been completely put on the back burner. I think this is just this urgent focus that organizations have. And I think what's going to happen in future is that AI literacy will be integrated into data literacy programs.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because this is the first year that AI literacy actually popped up as a trend.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot about it this year, just through the events, through conversations.
Absolutely,
I think that's sort of what we really need to get to grips. This thing is happening.
Yes.
Cannot get left behind. It's not just, it's hype cycle at the moment, right? But it's going to be something that is pervasive across the organization.
Correct.
And people need to get up to speed. And I think, the sort of the second sort of top trend in this survey, which we all love as the data community, is data governance and quality. I think it's just that another little nudge that gets data governance and quality on the map, that this is really... Yes. So I think, sort of 8-9 years ago in the banking environment, it was BCBS 239 and things like that, okay, now we need to know the provenance of the data, all that sort of stuff. This seems to now just another trend that just keeps data governance and quality top of mind. Not everyone's doing it very well. I think we've had some conversation, but, it's that thing that just keeps pushing that really critical part of the whole puzzle, further and further along.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is where I see maturity in the industry, is that penny has dropped.
Yeah.
That you can't do AI, you can't do Gen AI, you can't do data sharing, you can't do any of these other sexy trends unless you get the basics right. Yeah. And it's interesting to see that sort of knowledge and approach is not just in the data office. It's executive teams understand this, CEOs understand this. So I'm not surprised that this is now a focus. The other reason why it's a focus, of course, is that no one wants to be fined.
Yeah.
And there is a compliance drive here as well. And, if you get audited, you want to make sure you've got it all in place. You don't want to have any gaps that could lead to, some punitive action. So, I think it's a focus because on the one hand, it's a risk if you don't do it. On the other hand, there is a maturity in terms of thought around it. Yeah, okay, we've got to get the basics in place.
Yeah, for sure. All right, good stuff. All right, so let's leave it there, Martiza. I think we've kind of given people some insights into what we're going to be talking about over the course of the year. So coming out every 2 months will be an episode based on the trend. So just to kind of recap, so your top 5, augmented analytics, still kind of, in the works. Data privacy, again, probably linked to Gen AI, etc.
Yes.
Got balloons coming up.
Oh, wow. You're really excited about the top 5, aren't you?
I've never seen that before. So people think it's my birthday. Third one, Gen AI. I think that's probably going to keep moving up. I think if we did a 6-month sort of revision of the trends, you'd probably find that that's shifted.
Yeah.
A little bit edge computing / real-time analytics is the fourth one, and then the all-important AI governance as the fifth. And those are the things that we're going to be covering through the course of the year.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point that you made. Maybe what would be interesting is if we ask people over the next few months to predict the changes this year in terms of the trends. And then we can do a mid-year check and just see what's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Good stuff. All right. Well, I look forward to it. Season 2, season 1 was really good. Kind of just helped us build the idea of what we want to do. And I'm sure we'll, through the course of the year, some really interesting guests as well to join us for the topics. But
Okay.
look forward to it, Martiza. Have a good one.
Yeah, me too. You too. Thanks, Greg.
All right. We'll chat soon.
Bye.